We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent.
Hi, Parth. You're looking well. Nice to see you.
You're too kind to me. I'm really glad we were able to get this done. This intro, I mean.
Just barely.
Yeah, we're pushing it to the limit.
By the skin on our teeth. I mean, you're in order to get this done, you had to catch me in a pretty disheveled state, and we'll leave it at that. It
is 11:50 p.m. Saturday as of this recording. This episode is coming out 8 a.m. Monday or 8 a.m. Sunday tomorrow.
Yep.
But thankfully, I have edited the interview for this, so just the intro to edit tonight.
Parth, it's just like high school. We're procrastinating on our homework, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe that mentality never ends.
And Trent, just bear with me here. Like when you're in high school and you're going through puberty, you're just like, sometimes it's like you're moody, and then sometimes you're just like ravenous, like you just want to eat. And there's just so many updates as to what you've been eating.
What does a growing boy need? It's food. And I've gained some weight recently, so let's talk about what I've been eating. But first, I wanted to share a text I received from my mom, and it actually has something to do with our last episode, Oppenheimer Part 1 interview with production designer Ruth de Jong.
Wow. Cool.
And it actually more specifically has to do with our intro section, What Have You Been Eating?
Dear.
And I'm just going to read it verbatim. It says, "Really, Trent?" And if you're hearing this, I'm sorry. You stole and ate an entire bag of Sour Patch Kids? I get the doing of the act, but the announcing to the world, not good. On a more positive note, amazing interview. Good work, guys. Can't wait for the second half. Yeah, so my mom texted me that, and I have no hard feelings about stealing from big business. I'll leave it at that.
Well, also, all due respect to your mother, whom I respect very much, especially since we had the Jaws discussion.
Jaws episode, yeah, for which she's a great discussion guest. Thanks for coming again, Mom.
I feel no qualms.
Yeah, me either, right? I feel like of all the horrible things I've admitted to doing on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm shocked that's the one that got you. But you know, maybe it's for the best that's the one that did. Anyways, Trent, what have you been eating? Well, Trent, explain your situation right now.
I'm in Pennsylvania working on a true crime show. And I found that unlike on like regular film shoots, like when you rap, when you're like when you're on the road, like everyone likes to drink, which is super cool and not something that I'm used to. But we went out for Mexican food, and margaritas and Pacificos were consumed, delaying the start of this pod. Parth, as you know, inconvenience directly. And
it's
so
okay,
the last thing I ate was the delicious burrito from there. And then afterwards, we get back to the hotel, and we're standing in the parking lot, and I get that feeling like, yeah, I'm probably gonna throw up. But I was like, I've had such a good night with all these people, and I really don't want to cause a fuss. So just mid-sentence, I just like walked away. I threw up in some flowers, like a lot, like everything. And then I walked back. I wiped off my mouth, and no one knew the difference. And I didn't have to ruin the night for everyone or make anyone think that it was a big deal.
Wow.
So the last thing I ate is also the last thing I threw up, which is the first time in craft services history. Which
yeah, I mean, it exited your body
at a speed faster than that which it entered. Yes. What about you?
My grandparents and my cousin arrived here today. My cousin Ira, who also attends Rutgers.
This story seems like it's going to be less X-rated than mine.
Significantly. And because my cousin is coming over, we got sushi from Sushi Palace in Somerville, and friend of the show, Sophia Alexis, joined us.
Wait, is that the same person from all the Mission Impossible discussions?
All the Mission Impossible discussions, the Gone Girl discussion. She gave it 2 out of 10. Go listen to it to find out why. Several countless intros. Yeah, she's just been a good friend of the pod.
Parth, have you noticed that everything we say on the pod at this point is something we've said in an episode prior, and now the joke is just that we keep saying it?
Cue the intro. Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film to talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week we are continuing
our Ruth de Jong interview.
Yes. This is part 2 of our Oppenheimer interview. She talks about a lot of cool stuff in here. All right.
What did she talk about, Parth? Break it down.
She talks about Los Alamos, the interrogation space, lots of stuff for discussions with Hoyte van Hoytema. So maybe I'm just going to allow the listeners to just partake in part 2.
You're just going to let it speak for it. You're just going to let it speak for itself?
Yes. And then at the end, some exciting news for the Craft Services podcast.
Apparently some exciting news that Trent's here
unbeknownst to
Trent
Trent
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's holding on to the pod for dear life, just seeing, just taking it one day at a time. And let's
cue the interview. So talking a little bit about like the Strauss-ness of it all, this movie invented IMAX black and white, and sort of how did, if at all, black and white inform the production design? Like, does that affect it as opposed to being in color?
Yes and no. I mean, I think, for instance, you see that ballroom in color and you see it in black and white. I think but we weren't overly weird. I mean, I've done black and white with David Lynch. And it's like, let's make this, we're shooting this all in black and white. So that can be purple and magenta and green, because you get the variations of grays, the contrast, but in our case, no, we played it very honestly. So we kept the colors, all period appropriate.
What they were.
Yeah, exactly. So as you're fading in and out, because, so I know, but you just want rich whites and rich blacks, and Chris and Hoyte were not afraid of white, which a lot of cinematographers are like, I need this tea stained, or I need this really knocked back, but they wanted snow bright white. It was incredible. It was wonderful. It was very, I'm like, see, you can shoot this and it can look incredible. And I learned a lot from Hoyte about that on Nope too, just when we were, the exterior of the house was, the initial color I had originally painted it was sort of a subdued white, and Hoyte brought Jordan out, and he's like, we need to pump, this house needs to be whiter. And I'm thinking, what? He's like, Ruthie, the IMAX, they can take it and it will only pop and be more vibrant, and just the saturation that, the film, as opposed to digital. And so that was a beautiful thing to just kind of, it was very freeing, because there was a lot of white throughout Oppenheimer. I mean, the director's house at IAS, and then all of the exterior, all of those white was a very, just laboratories, right? And you're just seeing a lot of white. And we were able to punch it up, which was great.
I guess speaking on white, there's also, lots of times in the movie where it gets kind of in Oppenheimer's head, and there's like bright lights, like for example in the room where he's being interrogated. And was that sort of something you had to account for, or was that sort of, that's like Hoyta and his lighting stuff is going to be on his end?
Hoyta and his lighting. Also, it was a combination of special effects and visual effects. So Scott Fisher, who headed up special effects, and Andrew Jackson, who did visual effects, because what we did on this entire film was everything in camera. We did all the visual effects were filmed, photographed. It was, so I think the four of us were constantly working closely together in that, but it wasn't, for instance, like it's like, oh, because we're doing this lighting effect, you should really paint the wall darker or brighter or what. It was,
Right,
we kept everything very, again, just honest and natural to what it was. And then they're, pumping in those flashbacks and all of those, because, early on, I think the very first person Chris gave the script to was Andrew Jackson, who was the VFX coordinator, and he's worked with Andrew on many of his pictures, and Andrew's just incredibly talented. Have you all spoken to him before? No,
we have not, but I've noticed his credit over the years. Yeah.
And he, the first thing Chris said to him was, I want to do all of this in camera, and how do we explore Oppenheimer's emotionally what he's wrestling with, and how do we put that into something, and just the understanding of the atom splitting, and the understanding of this whole other world that you and I just don't see on a daily basis, but it's what Oppenheimer sees. It's almost this possessiveness of just how incredibly intelligent on this entirely other level. I mean, it's unbelievable, these physicists and what they've been able to do and understand, and it's other dimensional. It's just, and how do you put that into a picture, and how do you put that into and I think Chris just felt, and I completely agree with him, that anything done on a computer animated graphics, kind of all of that, it almost dumbs it down. And so he and Andrew got to work immediately. And so early on, I did a deep dive with sort of imagery of real life things, dealing with really bright lights and explosions and atoms. And, we did kind of a massive pictorial board that we all studied and had a big meeting about. But then it was up to Scott and Andrew to really build this laboratory, essentially full of fish tanks and, weird liquids with random viscosities and floating particles and silver paint that had flecks in it. So, and they're pouring, it was like, Hoyt and I would both just be like, man, they get to do that all day, just kind of, and they had these macro, camera lenses and snorkels that they were putting into the fish tank and filming, and it was wild. And then we would watch all of that in dailies along with what we were shooting, and you could see it in black and white and color, and it was incredible. And Chris is such a visionary in that way, to demand something that most people are like, no, just do it in the computer, or it's going to be so much easier if we don't even fuss with that. But everything that Chris demanded, even saying, no, I want, Kodak initially was like, we've never developed 65 black and white. It's going to be much thinner. We have to adjust our cameras. And he's like, great, do it. And they're like, oh, it's difficult, or it's going to be expensive. And Chris is like, and they did it. And he was just set on shooting black and white film and developing, not shooting color and developing in black and white. It was like, yes, that's all been done before. I know what that is. But the richness and the pureness, and you've probably seen that frame of Killian with his hat and his cigarette with kind of like a white sheet. And that was done super early in prep. And I remember we were just all riveted by when that went up. on the screen, we're going, oh my goodness. I mean, we just had never seen anything so beautiful. And you could see every pore in his face, not in a bad way, but just unbelievable. And then you're going, this, and Chris was just on to something on every single level. And I felt like he was truly pushing. He didn't let any of us just settle and go, oh, well, this is difficult, or this is hard, or anyways, that was incredible to be able to, facilitate and push for and just, the end product. When I saw the film for the very first time, and then I've seen it several times since, it's just every time there's something else that you're just the layers and the depth and all that is in that. And then to know all of that was done practically in camera. And, it's a really, I think, exciting on so many levels, just as an artist, and being able to collaborate with these other artists who it's just, the bar is very high, and it's great to be able to continue to push.
So was your first time, we were going to ask what your first time seeing the movie was like. So was it at the premiere, or when you're the production designer of an awesome movie, do you get to see it before that? Or was it just like in a normal IMAX theater? And what was your experience of seeing it all for the first time, all laid out?
I think every director is different on how they have their collaborators, but Chris is very specific, and he likes his collaborators to all watch it and then meet with him after and discuss it. So I got to see it when it was finished. The music wasn't entirely finished. I want to say most all of the visual effects were completed. I saw it at Universal at City Walk in the IMAX. On a proper screen, in the way Chris intended it to be, intends it to be seen. And it was, I didn't know what to expect, because obviously, the script, but we've done, you're shooting so fast. It's very intense. You're kind of all over the place. And then you're seeing all this craziness with the visual effects happen and the special effects. And you know what the storyline is, sure. But I could hardly talk after I saw it that first time. I went and met Chris for lunch afterwards at his office, and I was so moved and rocked emotionally, because when you're making a film, you don't have time to really get emotional about what you're doing. It's very, there's just so much structure. It's almost like the emotion. And because I'm not on set all day, just listening, and the actors, and you're just kind of leapfrogging and in a constant state of, this has to get finished. We got to move on to the next. This has to get finished. So it's seeing all the emotion that was on the pages, and it was, I think more than anything, I was thrilled with how everything looked. Obviously the first time I see it, I'm just almost lost in making sure our work is, it works and it's appropriate, and there's no, looking for basically bogeys and things that are just, that I may or may not have been happy with. And the second time I saw it, so that was the first time, and Chris said, don't worry, my agent couldn't speak for like a day and a half after he saw it. I mean, I think it just, I don't know how you guys felt when you first saw it, but what he was wrestling with, Oppenheimer, emotionally, and then what he went through on all those levels was, that rocked me. I mean, it was very intense, and I really, the weight and the gravity of the situation, and how there was never any going back. I mean, just all of that. And I think when you read in the history books, you can be so, oh yeah, that was back then, that thing happened. I mean, you just, even in school, it doesn't, and then seeing it. But I didn't see it with a complete score. So that's always an element too, that the second time I saw it was at the premiere. And that was incredible too, because you get to see it with a huge audience, and complete start to finish. And, I got to just more enjoy the film. I wasn't really staring at our work, the production design work, so to speak. I was more just trying to take in the entirety of it. And that was also very special. And it's amazing for a 3-hour film. I don't know how you guys felt, but I just remember I didn't really move. I don't know if mostly you end up fidgeting at these slow parts. You're kind of like, or you're like looking at your watch going, how much, and I've then seen it a couple times since, and I literally just am staring at the screen and cannot, it's incredible because and you've probably read a lot of articles and Chris has addressed it, but everyone's like, I can't hear what everyone's saying and and Chris is like, yes, I intended it that way. That's life. Like, it's like, I'm not, and he doesn't go in and ADR, afterwards. And I think, so every time you're picking up a little bit more of, oh, right, that was that conversation. Or that was just, a lot of people complained like there was, what is it, like, just they don't catch a lot of what the actors are saying all the time. And I'm like, yeah, you kind of don't, especially think about being at a party or something. You're not, you pick up on most of it or some of it, but you're not. And I love that he kept that so honest and true to life as well. Like, it's sort of like, wait, what did he say? Or what did she say? Or what's, and that was again on purpose. So yeah.
Yeah. We were, thanks to you, lucky to go to a press screening, and people were pretty silent once the movie ended.
And we saw the screen was absolutely huge. It was my first time seeing a movie on a screen that big, and when the first shot, I saw how tall it was. The word "whoa" just like released from my body.
Yeah, it was like a guttural, like not like a choice to say it. Like,
no, and that's what's so radical about this film is there really is, it's this moment in time that happened. This it's a this obviously character study in Oppenheimer, but yet the way Chris has captured it emotionally and physically is just awe-inspiring. Really is. I think for all of us filmmakers as well, you go and you see that and you're just going, I mean, holy shit, it's just like, oh my gosh. And the way the scope, the scale, and, one thing that was incredibly cool to watch and experience was how most of the time you think about IMAX and you think about nature shows. Like, IMAX really came into being when it was like, oh, let's do all these, like, whatever those shows were with that narrator. We all Planet Earth.
David Attenborough.
Yes, thank you. His voice, you can never forget it. And it's like, that is what people think of IMAX, right? And instead, Chris and Hoyta are taking this massive IMAX camera and sticking it right in the actors' faces and documenting the entire thing with an IMAX camera, which is like, nobody does that, and not to, and I just think, and it takes you on it puts you right there versus, keeping the audience in their seats and, oh, you're over here at arm's length. And you can, yes, of course you can watch my film. Here's my film, but it's over here. And you're not really, but I think with what Chris has done with Oppenheimer is it's just stuck you right there in that room. And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, think about Room 2022. You're just the whole time.
Just about to ask about that.
They had to be there for I literally said to Chris, because that was one of the very first things I was like, oh, this will absolutely be the one thing we build on stage. He goes, I hate stage. I'm not going to stage. We're not building this. And I said, oh, but we could, of course you can, your walls can move. We can make it very, he's like, was not a luxurious experience. This is not going to feel luxurious. We're not going to make it luxurious for the filmmakers. It's this really narrow, tight room, and I want everybody to feel that way. I want the actors to feel that way. And I said, well, you and Hoyta, the camera, the focus puller, he's like, whatever, we'll figure it out. But yeah, that's the way. And then when we ended up finding that room, I mean, it was so narrow. I remember and Hoyta and I are both just always kind of like, yes, no problem, and I remember when the crew came and tech scouted it, they're like, 2 weeks in this thing. And Chris is like, is there a problem? Everyone's like, nope, no problem. But it was It was it was incredible, but it captured it so purely.
I feel like once you start working on movies, you start noticing like, oh, that's a small room. Like that
Yes.
must have sucked to film in.
Yes.
And I think like in film school, they tell you like, you have to think of like your camera's like the size of a laundry machine, essentially.
Yep.
Like that's how much it's going to be. And I can't imagine with an IMAX camera
Yep.
being in like a real room like that. That's that small and cramped.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It was great. I mean, at the point, and that was at the very end of shooting too. It was, we wrapped in Berkeley, but that was right before we went to Berkeley. So it was our last bit. So the crew was just rock stars though. They handled it so well, but those were some long days and intense days. And they, obviously we had an AC duct going through the one duct into that room to keep it cool enough. But it was, I think it really did put everybody right there. And those, just the actors were so great in all those scenes, and it's so intense and it's so gnarly, and you're just watching, as Kitty says, him get tarred and feathered.
So if you could, I'm sure your Oppenheimer experience, if you
Yep.
could reduce it down to a single lesson that you learned, either as a production designer or just as a human in Earth, what is the one lesson you learned?
Oh, wow. Great question. What is the one lesson I learned? I think, I think in general, what I took away from the shoot, Chris's perseverance and his dedication to what he had his mind set on, and not allowing the answer to be a no, and kind of what we were up against with budget and timeline, and what you realize you can actually do within those constraints. And I think it was the most freeing in a way to not have all the money in the world, to not have all the options in the world, to not say, yes, we can go to every single location Oppenheimer lived, worked, etc. But to be crunched in a way to rethink that. How am I trying to say this? I guess what was an incredible feat in its own right, and I think it sort of restored that notion. I mean, this is the only project that I've ever worked on that has been, the choice to make this almost in the most analog way possible is what we did. And I think I guess, I don't know if it's a lesson as much as it just restored my passion for saying, I guess the naysayers in the world. I mean, I really think about just the general projects with producers and studios and things when you're meeting with directors and productions, and it's like, we want to do this film, but we're going to do all that in CGI, and we're just going to extend your sets, and we're going to, it just goes, no. Okay, that's one way to do it, but you can also do it. And it doesn't, I think everybody thinks Christopher Nolan and he's got all the money in the world. It's like, but he doesn't, he's very frugal, because he knows I guess he's incredibly responsible to the craft, and to, when he said, I'm setting out to make this period film for $100 million, it isn't like, oh shoot, you know what, we actually need 130. Let me go back to the studio and ask for $30 more million. It's like, no, then we need to rethink how we need to do this. But we still need to include all of these scenes, or all of the, the entire script. And for instance, Chris did, he was able to shoot it in 57 days, which saved us a ton of money versus a luxurious 80 to 100 days, and he jammed. And every day you have a company on payroll is, it's very expensive. So I think there were so many ways that watching he and his producing partner Emma and Hoyta, and then all of the departments own that responsibility as well. I think, I don't know if it's so much of a lesson, but as a validation of, yes, it can absolutely be done, but you need to take responsibility. And I think there was freedom in that, if that makes sense. And you know, most people, the number one thing producers will tell you is like, we can't shoot on film. That's so expensive. It's like, sure, it's expensive, but why do you need, you know, 35 director's chairs in a video village? We didn't even have a video village. What do you need a video village for? If anybody is standing around on set, then they don't belong here. I mean, it's just sort of, there were so many areas that you look at where budgets, it's like, where is the money going then? And what is it going to? How many trailers, how many personal vehicles, how many, you know, private drivers and this and that. And it's like, all of that goes into the final picture because, you know, the allotment of, so that was just, I loved kind of peeling back and seeing how this film was made and how we were able to make it. And I mean, I think ultimately, you know, we tried to make it feel as big and large as possible. And someone, you know, beyond the means that we had. And I think we were able to do that and be incredibly smart about it. But you had, you know, this director at the helm that was pushing for that, demanding that. And it just proves you can do it.
I don't know if you saw either Parth or I's face when he said that it was shot in 57 days, but my jaw was sorry, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
As in ridiculously efficient and impressive.
Incredibly efficient. And originally, I remember when we were in our massive budget crunch in prep, I think he had penned out, or, you know, Nilo, the AD, or however it worked, had penned out, you know, somewhere between a 75 to 85 day shoot, which seemed very honest and based in reality and etc. And then when it between wardrobe and props and art department and IMAX, and it's like, well, we've got this fiscal thing we have to solve. And I remember Chris is like, I'm going to go do some homework, and I wasn't sure what that homework was. And then he came back and was like, I'm going to shoot in 55 days. And I was like, what? What director comes back and says, you can have my days back? You know, no one, I've never seen that. All I see directors go is like, I need more days. We need more days. And that it's not even their fault necessarily. It can be, you know, from just issues that come up, and you get, like, an actor gets sick and you lose them for a week and you still have to, whatever. But in this case, it helped all of the departments and enabled each department to get it. But then each department is held responsible. There's no waste within that department at all. And I think when you see a director show up and do their homework, it's like, I remember going just through my entire budget in detail. Nope, I don't need this art director anymore. Nope. And because you're going, well, then I can't sit here and have just this, you know, these line items that it's sort of like, yeah, well, that makes it a lot easier. Anyways.
Before we start to wrap up, I just wanted to ask about the Trinity test sequence, and just maybe like watch it, because obviously, I mean, Nolan has talked a lot about that being the showstopper in the movie scene, and just sort of seeing your work on screen in IMAX, like that scene specifically, what that was like, because that was, again, at the screening, you could sort of tell people were like, oh, okay, that's pretty amazing.
Something important is happening.
Yeah, we're watching cinema.
It's very palpable, right? I think, I mean, from my standpoint, it was, you know, we had the bunker, it was nailing base camp, and the bunkers and that whole area. And that was tricky because we were out in the middle of nowhere. You needed to hide our actual physical base camp somewhere, because he's doing those aerial shots, and you've got the massive tower, but you can't have the bunker in the reality of where their bunker was, where they were going to push the button, where Oppenheimer was with the goggles through the glass. I mean, we built all of that exactly as his real bunker was. We just weren't in real life as actually far. I mean, they were miles apart, right? So we cheated that. Scott Fisher did all of those explosions, special effects practically. And so that was incredible. And just Chris's choice to withhold, the sound stops. I mean, just the way the build up of that entire, and then Hoyte capturing that on camera. And I think it was a beautiful example of how all of the departments, everybody was on point with what they needed to be on point with, to, I think, take you right there to that moment. And then the way Chris outlined it all with, from the music to the production design to the cinematography to the special effects, it was just, and I think we all knew what happened, right? We knew it was successful. History already told us that, but how do you still make that terrifying? And it is pretty incredible to think that those people really weren't quite sure what would happen, and would they be standing after that button was hit? Would they still physically be there in some form or another? And I think that was I still felt that, like, for them. And I don't know. So I don't know if I answered your question correctly.
No,
but
that was awesome.
Parth, I don't know if you think it's time for the Big Kahuna final question.
It's time. Yeah.
The Big Kahuna final question is someone you've faced before, and that is, what is the last great film you watched?
It could be a rewatch or a first time viewing.
Oh man, you guys, way to put me on the spot.
Everyone hates this question, but it must be done.
What is the last great film I watched? Well, Chris had me watch Mirror when we were in prep, and that I hadn't seen Mirror before. Have you guys seen Mirror?
What is that?
I'm looking it up as we speak. And I just typed in mirror, and it's just a bunch of physical mirrors. So I need to put mirror move me.
Yes. And it was, we were looking at it. I don't know if, I feel like he and Hoyte had maybe used that as a reference previously, but we were looking at that initially. It's a beautiful film. It was shot on film, but the inner workings of the T section, there was just some things within that film that I want to say this was all shot on location. I don't know if it was Russia or did you find it?
I did. Is it the 1975 Criterion from
Yes.
Tarkovsky?
Yes.
I think a clip of this was shown in a class of ours at some point. I recognize this frame of her sitting on the fence.
And there was a great, there's just several just great moments from that film, but her walking through these long white tunnels, just different things. But I was riveted, and I went back and watched it a couple times after Chris showed it to me, because it was, beautiful.
Wow. So a Christopher Nolan recommendation.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, you guys will enjoy it. And I love that both of you haven't seen it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again, Ruth de Jong, production designer of such films as Manchester by the Sea, Twin Peaks: The Return, Nope, and of course Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, which you should see in theaters on the biggest screen possible if you have not already. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you both so much. It's wonderful to see you again. You haven't aged a day.
Thank you.
You either.
Hopefully we'll see you down the road on for something else. So
hopefully.
all the best.
After the next cool movie you do.
Yes.
I know, when those strikes end, we'll see.
Yes.
Oh man. But you guys take care and thank you.
Touch Parth, it's so easy to love Parth.
I don't know that I...
Parth Marathe in the moonlight.
Okay.
What a great interview.
I can abide by that.
Brought it home.
Yes, if
what a
nothing
great
else.
what a great interview.
Yes, I hope Ruth de Jong doesn't mind that that's how we brought it home, but
I hope her or her representation is fortunate enough to not listen to this interview. It's in there. I mean, listen to the parts surrounding this interview. The interview part was very sanctioned and pretty tame.
I think, totally fine.
But they lived it.
They did.
Yes, like us. We were there too.
Yes, and the audience, I'm sure, had to live through it too.
And they're here now with us at the end of the episode to the lucky few who've stuck around.
Do you want to know some exciting news?
Could it have anything to do with what our episode is going to be, like what movie we're going to cover after Oppenheimer? Because frankly,
it is not.
Oh, wow, because I don't even know the answer to that question, but I'm curious what you're going to say.
So Trent, part 1 of our interview with Ruth de Jong was featured in an article someone wrote up. Now, it's not a big deal necessarily. Do you know like comic book reporting or something? It's like CBR. Hold on, let me send it to you.
Yeah, brother. Oh my gosh. I mean, for the listeners at home, my mouth was agape because I have no idea what's about to be. How'd you find out about this?
They tagged us on Twitter, on our Twitter account when it happened.
Did
you
it
receive
about the
it?
pod? I'm about to look at it. Is it about the pod at large? Oppenheimer production designer worried about backlash over historical inaccuracy. Well, I'm amazed that that's what. Are we just like mentioned?
Yeah, they say that like in the on the Craft Services podcast, blah blah blah.
Oh, and this is like a real website. At least it seems like it.
Yeah,
kind of, sorta.
And then
this is
the tweet of how I found out, and it's like full interview on Craft Services.
Oh yeah, is it getting any traction? Do people care?
No, not many, but you know, it's cool.
But some.
Yeah. Well, we got an article written up about us, about something we
that's great news. I mean, I thought you were just gonna say that our Ruth de Jong interview was getting a few more listeners than we usually get, which I would have been happy about. But
which I guess it is. Yeah.
I haven't looked at that in a long time.
Yeah, it's just upsetting. But Trent, the interview for Oppenheimer is over. So is that just like the end of all Oppenheimer talk on Craft Services?
Oh, Parth, that couldn't be further from the truth. Wanna know why?
Why?
I'm feeling chatty.
Yeah?
And I don't just want to sit around and have a little chat. I want a discussion.
Well, I've got good news for you folks. Oppenheimer discussion. I'm thinking it's coming out.
I'm thinking by next week I'll have, I guess, into my busy schedule I'll have to squeeze a second IMAX Oppenheimer reviewing unless Blue Beetle has occupied the IMAX theaters.
It has occupied. I saw Blue Beetle in IMAX. It's a fun movie. I have nothing against it. Did
you call it fun or fine?
Fun. F-U-N.
Okay. How many stars were given?
3.5 and a heart. But I'm partial to superhero origin, like when they're well done. And I thought this was all right. But yeah, Trent and I, we're going to be discussing Oppenheimer. It's going to be cool.
I'm excited
to be cool. Yeah, we haven't talked about a movie together in like over a month, maybe 2.
The last one, it was while I was in England. And
wow, over 2 months, because I did 7 Mission Impossibles and 1 Grey Gardens with your very own Jordan Sikafus. So 8 weeks.
Yeah, Parth, you've been very busy, but we did discuss Babylon.
Whoa! Now that is like so
doesn't
long
that
ago.
feel like an eternity ago?
Yeah. But yes, thank you so much to Ruth de Jong talking with us, getting us a few clicks on the internet. But more importantly,
all
for
joking
being
aside,
a gracious
yes,
guest and very informative.
Yes, Parth, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, all joking aside, Ruth de Jong and your team, you're all awesome. Thanks for
Thank you to the
dealing with-
Universal team for helping us get this interview and to go to a press screening for it.
Yes. Oh, Parth, wasn't that the best? Oh, and that reminds me of what I was going to say about why I'm excited for the Oppenheimer interview. And I think since before Oppenheimer, the last movie was probably Nope, that I was like in the theaters and I was like, this is like I mean, they're both spectacle movies, but I was like, this is pretty stunning. And so I'm excited to talk Oppenheimer.
I'm excited to discuss it with you as well. So next week, Oppenheimer. And then after that, we have some cool stuff planned, but we're not going to tell you just yet.
All these returning guests, they can't stay away. Part, that's the thing about these. No, you haven't seen Dazed and Confused, right? I can't even make this joke. You're so lame.
Is it going to be like the high school line or high school girls?
That's the thing about these podcasting girls, Pod. We get older, and the pod stays the same age.
It's not true.
But doesn't it make sense, even though it's not true? Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Ruth de Jong. Listeners at home, look for the Oppenheimer discussion coming out next week. Trent is going to have to find not just the time to watch Oppenheimer, but the time to discuss it while PAing full time.
Well, the odds are statistically stacked against us, but life finds a way. Jurassic Park 2 was
life finds a way.
Finds a way. Jurassic Park 2 was on TV last night. It ain't that good, but it's fine. It's watchable.
All right.
I think we should go out on that note.
Yeah. We'll see you next week, guys.